Welcome to Living the Spiral. This is a place to slow down, take a breath, and listen to the rhythms moving through your life. Here we explore astrology, human design, the I Ching, and elemental ancestral wheels of the year from cultures around the world. These are old maps and living languages that help us sense where we are in time, what is asking to unfold, and how we belong to something far larger than any single moment. In each episode, we trace patterns in the sky and in the body. We weave myth with lived experience, intuition with practice, and the personal with the collective. Living the Spiral is about learning how to move with change instead of pushing against it. About meeting transitions with curiosity, integrating polarities, and remembering that every season carries its own powerful wisdom. When you begin to listen to the cycles, life starts to feel more connected, more meaningful, and more alive. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is Living the Spiral podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Living the Spiral. This is your Cancer season horoscope for your rising sign, and this is part 2 of my Cancer season overview. Part 1 goes through the history of Cancer, going all the way back to Babylon and Sumeria, and the evolution of the archetype of this sign. We talk about the 6 human design gates that the sun transits through during the season, and all of the major transits of Cancer season 2026. So go ahead and listen to that as well if you'd like to get the larger picture first. A quick note for those of you new to rising sign horoscopes. Rising sign horoscopes are more accurate generally than sun sign horoscopes because they reflect your actual house structure in the chart, which is where the action shows up in your lived experience. The rising sign was the sign that was coming up over the horizon with the moment you were born, and it sets up where all the different astrological houses fall in your chart. So if you don't know your rising sign, you can look it up anywhere. You can look up a horoscope, astro.com, with your birth date, time, and location. And you can also listen to, if you resonate with a certain sign, you can listen to the sign. You can listen to all of them. You can listen to your sun sign. You can listen to your moon sign. But just know that based on the house system, rising sign will be the most relevant to your lived experience. So let's get into it. Aries rising. For Aries rising, Cancer falls in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, roots, and the foundation of your entire life. The 4th house is your most private and interior place. It's called the IC, the Imam Coele, which is the bottom of the sky. So it's this place where Cancer season is asking you to tend to that private root and foundational structure. With the sun moving through your 4th house all season, this is a really good time to come home to your physical home, to yourself, to your lineage, your ancestry, to your sense of inner belonging. The roots are a part of your chart that really want attention right now. It's a good idea to ask yourself what you're building your life on, if it feels solid, if it feels stable, if that foundation feels nourishing to you. Chiron is entering Taurus on June 19th, and that's going to be in your 2nd house of values, resources, and self-worth. And this is beginning an 8-year process of healing around what you feel you deserve and what feels truly secure to you in your body. This is going to work in beautiful harmony with the 4th house themes of the season. It's the home you're tending outwardly and the sense of self-worth that underlies that as well. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th falls in your 10th house of career and public life. And the sun is going to be in your 4th. So this is the classic home versus work axis, the career versus foundations axis that's fully lit up by this full moon. And there's something about the balance between your private roots and your public ambitions that reaches a point of culmination here on this full moon in Capricorn. What are you ready to release on the career side so that the home can be more nourished? And what does it mean to build something publicly that is rooted in your values? Full moons are not about going one direction over another. They're about integrating the polarities across the wheel. And with Mercury going retrograde this month in Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd, going to be in your 4th house again the whole time, in your Cancer house. And this is a season for revisiting old conversations and old stories about home and family and belonging. Old memories might resurface. Retrogrades are all about words like reassess, revisit, review. And so something unfinished from the past, considering your home life, might ask to be looked at again. And this time, since it's in Cancer, it might be looking at it from a more compassionate angle. Retrogrades are not something to be scared of. They happen 3 times a year. And this retrograde is happening in a place that is about nourishment. Jupiter enters Leo and your 5th house on June 30th after a whole year in Cancer. So it's moving out of your 4th house of home and family and foundations and into your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, romance, children, and play. Jupiter is going to be here for the upcoming year and is expanding all of those themes. So the nourishment that you're tending in your roots during this month of Cancer season is about to bloom into something expressive and joyful. But it's a time to tend those roots first and not jump ahead into that self-expression, because that is coming, but waiting till the end of Cancer season to really bear the fruits of what you're fertilizing right now. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your 4th house as well, and is the most important lunation of the season for you. This is a seeding moment for your home and your family and your inner sense of foundational belonging. So on that new moon, you can ask yourself about new foundations that want to begin, planting seeds for a new kind of home, whether that's physical, emotional, or ancestral. Just asking yourself what you want to grow into over the next 6 months as it considers your foundational layer. All right, Taurus rising. For Taurus, Cancer falls in your 3rd house, the house of communication, your local environment, siblings, and your everyday mind. This is where your voice lives and where your relationships with the people who are closest to you in your daily world take place. Cancer season this year is bringing a nurturing and inward quality of how you think and speak. There's less pressure to be quick and sharp right now, and more of an invitation to communicate with care and with feeling, and to pay attention to what you want to say instead of what is expected of you. Chiron is entering Taurus on June 19th, and that's the wounded healer arriving in your 1st house, which is your body, your identity, and your sense of self. So this is a significant shift. Chiron has been in your 12th house and is now moving into your 1st house for the next 8 years, asking you to heal something fundamental about how you show up and how you're seen and whether your body feels like home to you. The wounds here in the 1st house are often the most tender because they're so close to home. There's so much about your identity. But Chiron in the 1st house also gives you the ability to become a powerful presence for others. The wounded healer is an alchemist, and you can become someone whose wounds have turned into a depth of authentic embodiment. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is lighting up your 9th house of big picture thinking, philosophy, long distance travel, with the sun across the sky in the 3rd. So this is a polarity between the sun and moon. It's a moment of illumination around how the things that you say and share in your local environment connect to a bigger vision, a bigger philosophy. So you can ask yourself what you're communicating, how you're communicating, and if it's aligned in your local community with your larger beliefs about life. This full moon might bring that into a sharp relief. You might be able to see it quite clearly on this full moon on June 29th. Mercury retrograde in Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd, so pretty much all of Cancer season, moves through your 3rd house, which is Mercury's natural home territory in a sense. So this retrograde is very much about revisiting conversations that didn't finish, revisiting ideas that got put away, maybe reconnecting with a sibling or a neighbor or someone in your local world in a way that wants to go a little deeper this time, and reviewing, revisiting, reassessing some things that have happened within that 3rd house of communication. Jupiter enters Leo and into your 4th house on June 30th after a year in your 3rd house in Cancer. And the 4th house where it's moving is the house of home and family and roots and foundations of your life. So Jupiter in your 4th house for the coming year is a beautiful thing. It is bringing expansion and warmth and abundance into your home life. And there might be literal expansions of your home or your family or your sense of domestic life in general. And also, it could bring a deepening of your felt sense of belonging and security as Jupiter moves through the fourth. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your third house, the Cancer house, and this is a seeding moment. New moons are a great fertile time to plant seeds, and this new moon in Cancer is a great time to plant seeds about how you communicate within your local world, within your neighborhood, with your siblings, with your close friends. So you can think about a piece of writing or a creative project or a conversation that wants to get started on July 14th and plant some intentional seeds there for how you want to use your voice in the months ahead. Gemini rising. For you, Gemini, Cancer is falling in your second house, which is the house of money, what you value, your resources, and your self-worth. And this is the place where Cancer season is asking you to orient. After the electricity of Gemini season with Uranus in your first house, kind of rewiring your sense of self, perhaps. Uranus just moved into Gemini, and in your first house, it could have been a little bit buzzy. Cancer season invites a more interior invitation as the sun travels there. The question this month is about what you truly value and not what you've been told to value or what looks good from the outside, but what really feels nourishing to you and what feels like you're giving yourself care and what feels worth investing in. Cancer in the second house is about relating to your resources with care and with a tenderness of feeling and a sense of what truly sustains you. And reviewing, revisiting, reassessing some things that have happened within that third house of communication. Jupiter enters Leo and into your fourth house on June 30th after a year in your third house in Cancer. And the fourth house where it's moving is the house of home and family and roots and foundations of your life. So Jupiter in your fourth house for the coming year is a beautiful thing. It is bringing expansion and warmth and abundance into your home life. And there might be literal expansions of your home or your family or your sense of domestic life in general. And also, it could bring a deepening of your felt sense of belonging and security as Jupiter moves through the fourth. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your third house, the Cancer house, and this is a seeding moment. New moons are a great fertile time to plant seeds, and this new moon in Cancer is a great time to plant seeds about how you communicate within your local world, within your neighborhood, with your siblings, with your close friends. So you can think about a piece of writing or a creative project or a conversation that wants to get started on July 14th and plant some intentional seeds there for how you want to use your voice in the months ahead. Gemini rising. For you, Gemini, Cancer is falling in your second house, which is the house of money, what you value, your resources, and your self-worth. And this is the place where Cancer season is asking you to orient. After the electricity of Gemini season with Uranus in your first house, kind of rewiring your sense of self, perhaps. Uranus just moved into Gemini, and in your first house, it could have been a little bit buzzy. Cancer season invites a more interior invitation as the sun travels there. The question this month is about what you truly value and not what you've been told to value or what looks good from the outside, but what really feels nourishing to you and what feels like you're giving yourself care and what feels worth investing in. Cancer in the second house is about relating to your resources with care and with a tenderness of feeling and a sense of what truly sustains you. Chiron is entering Taurus on June 19th, right before Cancer season begins. And Chiron's moving into your 12th house, the house of solitude, the subconscious, and what is hidden from your first house of personality. It's your hidden life. Chiron here over the next several years is going to shine a gentle light into those places that you have been running quietly in the background. The 12th house can bring up old ancestral patterns, and in Taurus, it could be around worthiness and about being cared for, also about what you're allowing yourself to want. And so these might begin to surface and alchemize and feel painful at first, but ultimately soften. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th lights up your 8th house of shared resources and deep transformation and intimacy. And the sun is going to be across the sky in your 2nd house. So this is the axis of your own money and your own earned income and someone else's money, OPM, other people's money over there in the 8th house. And it's this juxtaposition between your own values and the deeper entanglements of intimacy and shared life and how those shape your values. Something around a financial or emotional shared resource might reach a culmination point on this full moon in Capricorn, and what's been building in your intimate world might be ready to come into some sort of clarity on this full moon. Mercury retrograde is happening in Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd and moving through your 2nd house the whole time. So this is a really beautiful retrograde for you. It's about revisiting your relationship to what you have, what you need, and what you feel that you deserve. Old beliefs about money or worth might resurface for review and reconsideration. So I invite you to welcome them in, let those come up, start that reconsideration process. They're asking to be updated. Jupiter enters Leo in your 3rd house on June 30th, bringing a year of expansion to your communication, your writing, your local networks, and the way you share ideas, as well as your siblings. So if you have a platform or a creative voice of any kind speaking out into the world, social media, your 3rd house is about to get very active and abundant with Leo there on stage. And then finally, the new moon in Cancer on July 14th is going to be a potent lunation where there's a seeding moment happening in your 2nd house. You can ask yourself at this new moon, what new relationship to resources and your sense of value, your sense of self-worth wants to begin on this new moon, and plant those seeds with care and nurturance. Cancer rising, this is your season. The sun is moving through your 1st house, which is the house of your body, identity, and how you present yourself to the world, your sense of self, your personality. Every year, Cancer season is kind of a personal new year for you, so happy rising season time. This is a time to tend to yourself with the same care that you so readily give to others throughout the whole rest of the year. Chiron entering Taurus on June 19th is moving into your 11th house of community and friendships, hopes and dreams, larger networks and collectives. And over the next 8 years or so, Chiron is going to be here in Taurus after leaving Aries and is going to be healing old wounds around belonging, around whether you truly have your people, whether your community sees and supports you, whether your dreams are yours, or whether you've been carrying something that other people, your friend groups, have given to you. So it can start off with a little bit of a pain point with Chiron, and Chiron is an alchemist that evolves from the wounded to the healer that can teach others with his wounds. So there might be some grief here that's been sitting in your friendship or community life that can come up, and just know that as it rises to the surface, that is the playtime when it can be healed. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is across the sky from your 1st house in your 7th house of partnerships and one-on-one relationships. That's not only romantic relationships, but business partnerships as well. It can be the house of open enemies at times. It's just anyone who you're in a direct one-on-one relationship with. And this is the most personal axis in your chart from the 1st to the 7th, you and the other. And during this time of the full moon, something in a significant relationship is reaching a point of illumination. Something might need to be said, something might need to be seen. And the gate of joy on the moon side of this lunation suggests that the fullness that you're looking for in relationship might be asking you to start with your own aliveness first. Full moons are always about that integration of polarities across the wheel. And so from the house of self to the house of the other, there's a lot being asked about showing up for yourself as well as others. Mercury retrograde in the Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd is in your 1st house of body, self, and general presence. This is going to be a deeply personal retrograde for you, and you might find yourself reviewing how you've been showing up as a person how you've been caring for yourself and nurturing yourself, and asking what old self-images are ready to be released. This Mercury retrograde could feel a little tender, but it's a real invitation to re-meet yourself from a more compassionate place. Look at yourself in the mirror as a fresh, new embodied, like you've just shed your shell and grown a new one. Jupiter enters Leo and your second house on June 30th, and will stay there for a year. This is the house of values, resources, and self-worth. So Jupiter is going to be here expanding that for the coming year. And it's a beautiful thing for your material and emotional security. There's expansion coming to your sense of what you deserve and what you're able to receive both. So let yourself take it in starting June 30th and think about what you would like to receive in that second house of earned income, self-worth, resources over the coming year while Mercury's in retrograde. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your first house, and this is a big new moon for you, being your first house full moon of the year. It's a fresh beginning for your body and your identity and your sense of self. And you can ask what new version of yourself wants to emerge on this new moon, planting some seeds into the dark sky, the deep soil of the dark night sky, with real intention about what you really want to bring fully into form as far as how you come into the world, how you shine. Leo rising. For you, Leo, Cancer falls in your 12th house, the house of solitude and the unconscious, spiritual retreat, and the things that exist just below the surface of your visible life. This is the most hidden corner of your chart. Cancer season here is every year asking you to slow down and go inward. So it is summertime, it is the solstice time. But for Leo risings having a 12th house Cancer, summer is oftentimes a time to slow down and retreat a little bit. Not in an isolating way, but retreating into the shell the way a crab does to recalibrate. It's a natural process of seeing the interior instead of always being on the external Leo shiny way. So this is a time for intentional solitude and spiritual practice, connecting to the depths of your soul, and for attending to what your own inner life is saying when you're not stepping out into the stage and performing, but you're just with yourself. Chiron entering Taurus on June 19th, right before Cancer season begins for the next 8 years, is moving into your 10th house of career and public life. So over the next several years, Chiron is going to work through wounds around your calling and your visibility and just generally how you're known in the world. There could be healing needed around recognition, around authority and claiming your own authority, and thinking a lot about whether you've earned your place in your professional world or not. This is really deep and important work on the most public part of your chart. And so it happens right as Jupiter's about to enter your own sign. So you're going to have a little bit of this woundedness in the 10th house as Leo contains Jupiter in your first house. So there'll be a square there happening, creating tension between shining as yourself and what that means for your career. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is lighting up your 6th house of daily life and health, routines. The sun will be across the sky in your 12th, so this polarity creates a beautiful tension between the hidden world and the practical world, the world of your daily routines and the world of your inner mysteries. Something in your routines or your health practices is reaching a culmination on this full moon. So ask yourself about what habit has not been serving you so much lately, whether it's just been an excess or something or an absence of something in your life, in your daily routines. This full moon might illuminate that. And so you can ask yourself what in your daily life you can bring in to bring you more steadiness, more calm, and more joy. Mercury is retrograding through Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd, and that's going through your 12th house. So this is going to be an introspective retrograde where all the rewords associated with retrograde, the review, the reconsideration, those words are going to apply to what you've been carrying unconsciously that might come to the surface during this time for revisitation. There could be old dreams, paying attention to your dreams and keeping a dream journal this month. old feelings, things that got pushed down because there wasn't space for them, coming up for review. Listen to what's been living in the background noise and let it have its moment in the sun, not in the sun, but have its moment in the 12th house. Jupiter has just traveled through this part of your chart and expanded this part of your chart and is moving into Leo in your first house on June 30th. So again, there's this push-pull tension between Jupiter and Leo and the Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. But Jupiter and Leo is a really big one for you this year, this season, and this year ahead. Jupiter is going to be in your first house for the whole next year until next summer. And this is an expansion of your entire sense of self, how you show up in the world, your ability to be seen, your confidence, your presence. So this is your moment to come out of the 12th house and onto the stage, but just knowing that that Mercury retrograde in your 12th will kind of not make it an immediate stage entrance, kind of like you'll be dancing around the stage a little bit, hanging out back in the curtains for a little while. And the stage will be there waiting for you, but it's important to do that inner work as Mercury retrograde is happening through Cancer season. But Leo is in your first house. Jupiter is in your first house of Leo for the whole year, so you have time. And tend to your roots first, and then fill your cup before you pour is really what I'm seeing here. Is don't be too tempted to go right out onto that stage as soon as Leo takes Jupiter by the hand. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your 12th house, and this is a seeding moment in your hidden realm, an invitation to plant intentions in the darkness and let something begin quietly before it's ready to be seen. Tend to your inner soils, tend to your inner soul nourishment, and trust in what it is that you're incubating through Cancer season. And it'll find the light in Leo season. Come August, you will be ready to roar. Virgo rising, Cancer falls in your 11th house, the house of community, friendships, networks, collective vision, hopes and dreams. So Cancer season is drawing your attention to all the people that you're in community with and thinking about whether that community is nourishing you. In the 11th house, having Cancer there, it's a feeling type of connection with others. It's not necessarily lightweight. Virgos with Cancer in the 11th house are often asking who is useful in their network, who's aligned with their goals, who makes you feel held and seen and safe. It's not easy to have just surface level friendships and group connections as a Virgo rising, and that's the Cancer quality showing up in community in the 11th house. It's about the warmth and care that comes even when you're an acquaintance, even when you're in a larger group. Chiron, or entering Taurus on June 19th, moves into your 9th house of big picture meaning, higher education, philosophy, long distance travel. So over the next several years, Chiron is going to be healing wounds around your beliefs, around whether your worldview has been truly your own or inherited from others. And it's going to be asking if you feel like you have the right to your own philosophy and your own sense of meaning. So this is a beautiful transit for anybody doing spiritual or intellectual deepening work, anybody who's in school, in college, in grad school, anybody who's doing any type of study with an individual, any kind of travel to meet people who can teach you things across the globe. This is an important transit for you. Having Chiron there, that won't be easy, but it will be alchemical. And it will reveal how much you have to teach once you embrace those deeper beliefs. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is lighting up your 5th house of creativity, children, self-expression, and joy. And across the sky, the sun is in your 11th house, that full moon. So the polarity between creativity and friendships, between personal self-expression and group self-expression or group expression, is this intersection between creative life and community life that will reach a point of illumination on the 29th. You can ask what you're putting out into the world, and is it bringing you joy? It's definitely a pointed question, and it can be better seen in reflection by the people who you are surrounding yourself with. Mercury retrograde in Cancer is happening from June 29th through July 23rd, and it's moving through your 11th house, revisiting your community life and collective connections. So old friendships might resurface during this time. Things that have come up in group dynamics might come up for review. And this is a really good time over the course of Cancer season to feel into which communities are aligned with where you're going and which ones you've been staying in out of habit. Jupiter is entering Leo in your 12th house on June 30th, and Jupiter in the 12th for the coming year, the whole year till next summer, is going to be expanding your inner world and your heart center. Leo is all about the heart, and in the 12th house, this is about how your heart is contained, your spiritual life, your relationship with what lives beneath the surface. And it's not the most visible Jupiter transit that is going to expand anything in your outer world necessarily, but it's a profound one for those willing to go inward and really take a moment to notice what is being expanded at the subconscious level. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your 11th house, and plant seeds here during that time for community networks and collective vision that you want to cultivate over the coming months, coming 6 months or so until the full moon in Cancer. So ask yourself about belonging and what belonging feels like when it's truly nourishing, and start taking steps toward that now on this full moon. It'll be a beautiful practice. It's when Mercury is retrograde in the same house. And so there's a lot of review and reconsideration and renewal when it comes to your groups and communities. All right, Libra rising. Libra rising Cancer falls in your 10th house, which is the house of career, public perception, reputation, and what you're building in the world. So Cancer season is bringing a nurturing and inward quality to what can sometimes feel like the most outward part of life, the outward house. And so having Cancer in your 10th house generally brings a quality of knowing that what you build in the world needs to be tended with care, and there's a desire to tend it with that Cancerian kind of mothering, parenting care, nourishing your work and whatever it is that you're building, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work for someone else. Be really bringing that quality of care to your work the way you would care for a garden during this season. The long-term vision of your public life really wants you to feel full in that quality of care with your work this season. Chiron's entering Taurus on June 19th, and after 7-8 years in Aries, it's moving into Taurus in your 8th house of shared resources, deep transformation, and intimacy. So over the next several years, Chiron in this house is going to be working on healing your wounds around power dynamics in relationships, around money that's been shared or inherited, and around the places where you've let yourself be fully known by another in a vulnerable way. The 8th house is a tender territory for anyone, and for Libra rising, it could involve healing around partnerships and going deep with people in a really wonderful way. And that's, again, over 8 years. So if it's feeling wounding in that territory, know that there is an alchemical quality to Chiron where the wound is where the light gets in. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is in your 4th house of home and roots, and the sun is across the sky in your 10th, so it's this polarity between your roots and your public perception. Full moons always emphasize a polarity across the wheel, and this full moon is the home versus career axis at its simplest form, really fully lit up. So it's a time to think about the balance between your home life, your private life, your ancestors, and your public ambitions and how they work together, and if one is feeling stronger than the other. You can ask what your inner life is asking for that your outer life might be crowding out. And this full moon is asking whether what you've been building at home has felt alive and nourishing, and whether it's supporting your career and supporting your public perception, or if it's taking away from it. Mercury retrograde in Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd is moving through your 10th house as well. So Cancer season with the Mercury retrograde in that same house It's about your career again, your public identity, your sense of what you're known for in the world. So with retrogrades, oftentimes something comes around for revisitation, review, reassessment. And so something in your career or your public identity, your sense of what you're known for, your reputation might come back around. A past professional relationship might surface during this season. And there could be some kind of unfinished business in your work world that really wants to be completed or reconsidered before you move forward. Jupiter is entering Leo in your 11th house on June 30th, which brings a year of expansion to your community life, your networks, your friendships, and your sense of collective belonging. This is a beautiful transit for anyone building a community or expanding your social and professional circles. The 11th house is the network that comes out of the 10th house. So all of the review you've done in your 10th house of career will afterwards for the next year pay dividends with Jupiter entering Leo and expanding on that 11th house quality of networks. The new moon in Cancer, the final transit I'll talk about here, is on July 14th, and it's happening again in your 10th house. So it's a seeding moment during this retrograde for your career and public life. Okay, Scorpio rising. Hello, hello. Cancer falls for you in your 9th house, Scorpio. And the 9th house is the house of big picture meaning, philosophy, higher learning, spirituality, long distance travel, and publishing. So Cancer season is bringing in that hot summer depth and feeling into places where you reach beyond your everyday world and ask what your life is about, big picture belief stuff. This is a beautiful combination for Scorpio. You're definitely not afraid of depth, and the 9th house during Cancer season asks you to feel your way into your beliefs rather than just holding them intellectually. It's another water sign embodied, so it's a beautiful season for you. You can ask what you believe in your body, what truths you've earned through lived experience that are ready to be named or shared over the course of this summer season. Chiron enters Taurus on June 19th, right before Cancer season begins, and it moves into your 7th house of partnerships, one-on-one relationships, and close collaborations. Over the next several years, Chiron is healing wounds in how you relate to others, particularly around vulnerability and whether it's safe to truly be seen in close one-on-one relationships, and also around dynamics of power and care that live in your most intimate connections. The full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is lighting up your 3rd house of communication and your local world, siblings, and it's across the sky from the sun in your 9th. So this is that polarity, that axis between your big picture beliefs and the small daily conversations that you're having. Something is ready to come out of the philosophical realm and into a real exchange with the people who are close to you in your neighborhood and in your close community. And you really want to ask about the delight that comes from that axis, the big picture views and how they tie into the everyday chatter. What kind of joy and delight can you find in that in this summer months of Cancer? Mercury retrograde is happening in Cancer this Cancer season from June 29th to July 23rd, and it's moving through your 9th house where Cancer is. So those beliefs that we talked about earlier are going to have a time for revisiting them and reassessing something that's connected to a big picture pursuit that you might have started and perhaps set aside. This retrograde is a good time to return to a question that felt important at one point but got buried with the fray and the busyness of life. Get back to that big picture philosophy during this Cancer retrograde, Mercury retrograde, and let yourself get back into those big burning questions. Jupiter's entering Leo in your 10th house on June 30th and bringing a year of expansion to your 10th house, which is your career, your public identity, and the work that you're putting into the world. So this is going to be a significant year ahead for you professionally, starting this summer, and the seeds that you plant during this Cancer season when Jupiter moves into Leo around your beliefs and your sense of what matters to you deeply, the big picture, are going to feed directly into what you build out in the world. There's a new moon in Cancer on July 14th, again in your 9th house. So this is a moment within the retrograde of seeding your beliefs, seeding what it is you want to study, seeding your big picture vision. New moons are always about planting seeds in that dark sky and like the dark soil. And so it's this fertile time to dream and to vision about those big picture beliefs and how you want them to affect your career over the next year with that expansion in your 10th house of career. All right, Sagittarius rising. Cancer season is in your 8th house. It's 8th house territory. And this is the territory of deep transformation, of intimacy, of shared resources, of power dynamics, and the places where your life is entangled with another life. This is that territory that what lives beneath the surface, and Cancer season is really a time every year where you're asked to tend to that quality of life with care. The 8th house can feel kind of intense sometimes, and having the sun move through it during the summertime can bring a deep, watery, transformative feeling quality. And so this isn't really explosive underworld work. It's deep shadow work that is slow and interior, that happens in the quiet and comes out after it's been gestating for a long time. So you think back to Cancer seasons of the past, midsummer, while you have the sun transiting through your 8th house. How has that felt for you? This year, Chiron is entering Taurus on June 19th and moving into your 6th house of daily life and routines. So over the next 8 years, Chiron is going to be here healing wounds around the body, around health, around how you care for yourself in the day-to-day. And it's going to be a lot coming up around whether you feel worthy of tending to your own physical needs and daily routines. For Sagittarius rising, this is a beautiful counterbalance to the expansive and outward-reaching nature of your sign. The healing happens here in the small and ordinary and embodied places and pieces. The how you eat breakfast, the route you take to drive around your neighborhood, the way you care for your pets, for example. So that's going to be something that is up for review, visioning how you feel wounded in that region and knowing that the wound is where the light gets in. And so having an opportunity to up-level your routine life. The full moon in Capricorn is happening on June 29th, and that's in your 2nd house of values and self-worth. And the sun is across the sky in your 8th house, so it's a polarity between the 2nd and 8th house, which is a polarity between others people's resources and your resources, your embodied sense of security and security that you find from intimacy with another. So this full moon will illuminate what you have versus what you share, and what you value for yourself versus what gets entangled in your shared life with other people. This is a time to ask whether the things you've been holding as valuable really bring you alive. And it's a beautiful full moon to contemplate those things. Mercury retrograde is going to be in Cancer as well through your 8th house from June 29th through July 23rd. So a good chunk of Cancer season. This is a deep retrograde that could bring up old intimate conversations that might resurface, pillow talk, something involving shared finances, perhaps, or shared history. Exes might come into the picture. Or you might have a deeply personal transformation that could come back around for reviewing kind of how it's gone for you. This is a good retrograde for doing some kind of therapy, for journaling, and for deciding to take time to go into the underworld intentionally instead of being pulled there unexpectedly. So it's a summer of reviewing those deeper, darker places, kind of like the compost section of the Wheel of the Year, where you're really looking into how things are affecting each other on that molecular level. Jupiter enters Leo on June 30th, and that's your 9th house. It's the house where Jupiter feels at home. And so it's a particularly significant transit for Sagittarius risings because Sagittarius is also ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter moving into its natural home is a beautiful expansion of your philosophy and your travel and your sense of the big picture. There's something super just joyful Jupiter blows up everything that it touches. And in this context, you've done a lot of that inner work. You're going to be ready to seek new horizons, to do some traveling, to do some deep study, and to really feel an expansion of that part of your life. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your 8th house. And this is, again, that moment where you're doing a lot of review with Mercury retrograde there. The sun is there through this season. And so having the new moon there towards the end of the season will really ask you about being intentional about the transformation that is happening and knowing what you want to release your grip on so that something new can take root in that compost and in the shared spaces of your life. Capricorn rising. Cancer falls in your 7th house, Capricorn rising. It's the house of partnerships, one-on-one collaborations, marriage, business partnerships, and significant relationships of all kinds, especially one-on-one. So Cancer season is illuminating as the sun moves through the 7th house for you. It's illuminating what lives in the space between you and another person. It's getting deep into your relationships in that nourishing Cancerian kind of way. And the full moon in Capricorn on June 29th is right in your 1st house. So this is the house of your body and your identity, your sense of self. And the sun will be across the sky in your 7th house of partnerships. So there's this axis, this birthday axis in a sense. It'll be the most personal full moon of the year for you in your 1st house. So something in the dynamic between who you are individually and who you are in relationship with really reaches a point of culmination on this full moon. So it's really like the tension, the polarity between what you want and what your relationships are calling for. But it's a good time to ask on this full moon if the way you shows up in your relationships is really bringing you to life. It's really reflecting who you truly are. Just sit with that, have conversations with that. Don't be afraid to go deep in those conversations and deep dives with your partners. Chiron enters Taurus on June 19th, and it moves into your 5th house of creativity. Chiron, the wounded healer, will be in this house for the next 8 years. It's area of self-expression, romance, children, and play. So Chiron here is to kind of surface and heal the wounds around your right to joy. It's going to be about whether you feel like you're allowed to be playful, wounds around being seen in your creativity, wounds around romance and how you romance others and yourself. And this can be particularly significant for Capricorn rising because the 5th house sometimes gets overlooked in a life that can be oriented around structure and upward growth and achievement, Capricornian tendencies. But Chiron here is a really gentle and persistent reminder and an invitation to recognize those wounds, show them love, tend to them, and know that the wound is the place where the light gets in. The wound is a place where you can, even if it doesn't ever fully heal, you can teach from that place. You can guide other people towards an alchemical emergence based on your experience with what it feels like to be wounded in that area and coming through it yourself. Mercury retrograde is happening in Cancer from July 29th to 23rd, and that's going through your 7th house, revisiting something in your partnership life. So with the sun moving there as well and a Mercury retrograde, there's going to be some reviews, some reassessments, some reevaluations of what's going on in your partnerships and your one-on-one collaborations. There might be some things that come up within a relationships that ask for your attention, things that you might have bypassed or just skipped over before because you were busy. These might come back, and it's a good time to have those conversations that have been waiting to revisit an agreement that might just have gone stale, or to tend to the relationship that in question with the same care that you bring to everything else, that structured type of care that you bring. Jupiter is entering Leo in your 8th house on June 30th, which is the house of deep transformation, shared resources, and intimacy. So Jupiter will be here for the next year and is going to be really blowing up and expanding your relationship to what's shared in your life, what kind of intimacy, entanglements you have with other beings in your life. And there may be financial movement through partnerships or inheritance or investment. It could be a sign of, an expansion of that. So could possibly be getting some investments, some inheritance, something coming from other people at this time over the next year. And if it's not material, there also might be just a deepening and an expansion of the intimacy that you have in your life with others that feels real and feels tangible. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th, at the end of the season, is in your 7th house, and that is going to be within the Mercury retrograde, a seeding moment for your partnership life, really considering what's come up over the Mercury retrograde in that area of relationships, and plant intentional seeds about new dynamics, new collaborations, a new way of understanding close relationships, and begin that with intention on this dark moon on July 14th. Okay, Aquarius rising. Hello. Cancer is falling in your 6th house. So Cancer season is your 6th house season. And this is the region of life that's all about your routines and your health, your service to the world, your work, your pets, the small practices that hold your life together. Cancer season brings a nurturing quality to the everyday for you. So in the summer, it's a good time for you, Aquarius, every year to tend to your life, tend to the surfaces of your routines and your body and the rhythms that sustain you. This is a beautiful invitation for Aquarius rising, particularly because your orientation can be quite outward and intellectually expansive. But Cancer in the 6th house, in your 6th house, is asking what your body's asking for right now, spending summertime tending to your daily routines. So you're not just going through the motions, but you're paying attention to what it is that you're eating, what kind of media are you consuming, how much are you moving your body. All of these things are up for review this season. And think about what it would feel like to tend to your health in your daily life with the same tenderness you might offer a summer garden. Just, getting those fruits and water. You have to make sure you water them. So that is generally what Cancer season is like for you, is tending to the routines of your daily life. Chiron is entering Taurus on June 19th and moving into your 4th house of home, family, roots, and inner belonging, foundations. So over the next several years, over the next 8 years, Chiron is going to be in this house, healing wounds around home and family, around stories that you've inherited about belonging and about what a home can be, whether you're truly allowed to feel safe and rooted somewhere. So this is really foundational work, really revealing any wounds that show up there, and also creating a chance to alchemize those wounds into healing, into true teaching and beauty. So it's a potent transit, having Chiron just entering the new sign right at the beginning of Cancer season, and then going into those nurturances of routines. So those can integrate really well, forming routines that'll allow you to create space for your wounds and heal them. The full moon in Capricorn is happening on June 29th, and that'll be in your 12th house, which is the house of solitude, the subconscious, the hidden self. The sun is across the sky illuminating that moon from your 6th house. So there's this polarity between your daily life and the internal mysteries of your life. So the tangible outer world and the boundaryless inner world. So it's a good time to think about and reveal what you're carrying deep inside that your routines aren't creating space for, or if there's anything in your hidden life that is ready to be released so that the daily experiences can feel more alive. Mercury retrograde in Cancer from June 29th through July 23rd is going through your 6th house in Cancer, through visiting your routines and your health practices and your relationship to service and work. So you might have an inquiry about something that's happened with your health or with a work situation that didn't get resolved and might come back around and asking for more information. So this retrograde is a good time to tend to the small things that have been accumulating in your life. And there's a new moon in Cancer on July 14th that's happening in the same house. So within that retrograde, there will be a moment of planting intentional seeds around your daily life and your body and your health practices, new routines, a new relationship to your physical self, ways of showing up in service or work. Something new wants to begin on July 14th. So you can plant that seed there as you continue the review during the retrograde through your 6th house. Finally, Jupiter enters Leo and your 7th house on June 30th. That's the house of partnerships and one-on-one relationships. And Jupiter is going to be expanding your partnership life in a significant way, hopefully a very joyful way. Jupiter blows up in it just magnifies everything that it touches. And so there could be new collaborations arriving, new partnerships. An existing partnership or relationship you had could deepen and grow. And I just feel a lot of a warmth and abundance moving toward your closest connections during this Cancer season, as well as beyond into the coming year. Pisces rising, Cancer falls for you in your 5th house, and that's the house of creativity and self-expression, romance, children, joy, and everything you do for pure delight. And Cancer, every year during Cancer season, this is where you're asked to pour your care, is into your creativity. So you can look back to Cancer seasons of the past, summer solstice for the month after summer solstice, and see, has this been a time that I have nurtured my creativity and my self-expression? Have I romanced myself during those summer months? Because that's what you want to be doing, Pisces rising. The sun is lighting up your 5th house. And it's really just a beautiful time to tend to the way that you love and the way that you romance and what you make, what you put out into the world. So what in your creative life or your romantic life needs to be allowed to just emerge like a flower at its own pace? I highly recommend tapping into your creativity and your expression during this season. This season, we also have Chiron entering Taurus, the wounded healer entering the sign of the bull on June 19th. That's coming into your 3rd house of communication and siblings, your local world, your everyday mind. So over the next several years, 8 years, Chiron is going to be revealing wounds around your voice, around what you feel safe saying, and around early experiences that shaped how you communicate, around siblings, neighbors, and people in your immediate environment. But Chiron is the wounded healer, so although he is wounded, he doesn't stick with the wound or let it destroy him. The wounds are the place where the light comes in, as I'll say again and again. And the wounds are beautiful sites of healing the things that are the deepest pain points within you, and then moving through that territory and being able to heal others and work with others and as a teacher through the lived experience that you've had. We have a Mercury retrograde happening this month from June 29th through July 23rd. So pretty much all of Cancer season, Mercury will be retrograde in Cancer. And so that will be in your 5th house, where you're bringing all of that attention and nourishment to the creative and romantic world. But just know that with Mercury retrograde there, it's a time for review, reassessment of the things in your life that are about romance and about things that you've made and that you've loved. And you might see things differently now. They might just come up for review in a different kind of way. Jupiter is going to be entering Leo and your 6th house on June 30th. And that will be bringing expansion to your daily life, your health routines, and your relationship to work and service for the whole next year. So starting June 30th and all the way through next June, Jupiter is going to be a bountiful omen for your physical well-being and for feeling like your day-to-day has more meaning and momentum in it. It's the type of, Leo's all about self-expression. And so having Leo in your 6th house is about weaving self-expression into your daily routines and having Jupiter kind of highlight that and bring expansion to that quality. The new moon in Cancer on July 14th is in your 5th house, as we talked about, and this is within that Mercury retrograde. So we'll have the sun, moon, and Mercury all in your 5th house of creativity. And the new moon itself is a moment of planting seeds for your creative life and setting some intention. You will have done a lot of review and revisiting of what your creativity means. And so this is a great new moon on the 14th of July to bring in some new types of self-expression, to plant some seeds for a new project, perhaps a new source of joy that wants to begin in your life. So plant it with a full heart on this new moon at the end of Cancer season. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here for the Cancer season horoscopes. If you'd like the bigger picture of Cancer season, the history of the sign, the human design gates, and all the major transits, go back and listen to part 1. That's at livingthespiral.com or anywhere you find podcasts, Living the Spiral, Spotify, Apple, all around. The rising sign horoscopes speak to this season, and they also are touching on a few longer arcs of time. Chiron moving into Taurus is an 8-year transit, and Jupiter entering Leo is a year-long transit. So some of what I described here for your horoscopes extends well beyond Cancer season itself. It's just the beginning of these two kind of bigger transits that are happening within Cancer season. So I'm Allison Dale. You can find me at hearthandspiral.com, where I offer astrology and human design readings, including soul shine readings that look at both the astrology and human design together of your timing and what you're being called to do in this life, what's asking to move in your world at this moment. On Substack, I also do the Mandala 64 walk at livingthespiral.com, where I move through the 64 human design gates of the mandala in real time as the sun passes through them, with written posts and somatic prompts that are delivered to your inbox. So I highly recommend subscribing at livingthespiral.com to get these episodes, as well as lots of bonus materials. It's free. I don't really paywall, so I do have a paid subscription that you can sign up for, where you'll get invitations to seasonal rituals that I hold on Zoom about the different holy days of the wheel of the year and much, much more. So it's also a really wonderful way to show your support for this labor of love that I just love to do. But a little coffee here and there doesn't hurt. So thank you for your support. And if you're listening out in the world of Apple or Spotify or other podcast players, a review or a 5-star rating really does go such a long way. So please go ahead and share this with anybody that you think might resonate. And if you'd like to receive this podcast in your inbox, subscribe at livingthespiral.com. Thanks so much for being here. I also do have a Cancer season guidebook available. It's a 32-page PDF guidebook that has everything you would like to know about Cancer and the mythology and the elements of Cancer season itself, and all of the human design gates of Cancer season, ritual tips for the holy day of Litha, the summer solstice. I put somatic prompts in there to attune you to the energy of summer, and so much more. And you can get that at livingthespiral.com or at hearthandspiral.com on my website. So thanks for being here. Let me know in the comments how your Gemini season went and what you're feeling as the solstice arrives. And thanks again. Talk to you next month for Leo season.